It's the worst of the CBC for November 8th, 2019, the show where I watch the CBC so you don't have to. Okay, a few things to get to today because we got some clarifications around the rainbow poppy story from the last couple of days. So there are now competing claims made by both the school board and the school trustees and the students and the wider media-verse sort of alternative media here. And it looks like there's some foggy things, but maybe a lot of people are kind of telling the truth here. So let's go through what we need to know. So there was a story that the school had forced the kids to be suspended because they would not wear the rainbow poppy, and said they wanted to wear the regular ones. That's not true. So what is now the suspension is officially it's over hate speech, which again is a terrible idea. Now the student says that it all started when teachers, counselors, and some students said we should wear the rainbow poppy. The school board is saying no one was directed to wear the rainbow poppy. Okay, so if the school board had directed students to wear the rainbow poppy and then the student posted reasons not to, then it's an even clearer freedom of expression violation because this is the state censoring speech that is politically relevant at the time. So this should be sort of protected stuff. Now, if there is no direction and then you just put up a letter on the school, then maybe there's grounds to suspend for postering, but hate speech, again, is a bit silly. But it gets into murkier territory if it's just teachers and counselors are suggesting we should, and then you take sort of a stand out there. That's a bit murkier on sort of a charter violation bounds, but on terms of freedom of expression in general, it is getting to. And there's the other aspect of, okay, so I'm actually still completely right about what I said on Wednesday's show about the rainbow poppy, that this isn't the gays behind the rainbow poppy. It's the radical left. And what the media is now reporting is like fake news. There are no major LGBTQ organizations behind the rainbow poppy or have endorsed it. I said, of course not, because this isn't an invention or an idea brought up by the gays because it doesn't serve the gay community. It only serves the radical left as a means to divide people. So here is the letter that the kid got suspended for putting out. And this was sort of taking quotes off the internet for different things. Now, a couple of them I actually agree with in the sense of rainbow poppies, and some I don't. So, never seen something so disrespectful in all my days. What does LGBTQ have to do with war? Red represents blood, black represents widows and loved ones, green represents the land the blood was spilled on. Never change the poppy. I agree, right? That's a good. Now, the next two I don't agree with putting up. The first one's just nonsensical here. Why undo centuries of blood, sweat, and tears all because you need to do the dishes? I don't know what that has to do with anything. Is that misogyny? But it's a woman who posted it. That's just irrelevant. Keep it in your pants. Nobody wants to see it. That would be a valid criticism of taking kids to the Pride Parade, but this isn't about the Pride Parade. This is about rainbow poppy, so I can see how that would be construed as offensive by some. You've got a whole month dedicated to LGBT community, but the people who legitimately made a difference and died so that we could live decent lives have one day. You don't need a poppy. You just clearly want attention one day to remember the real heroes. How about we don't make it about your sexuality for once? And then finally, if you don't make such a big deal about it and force people to make it a part of their lives, there would be no problems. So some of these you can see are actually the core of them, sort of legitimate concerns over, stop politicizing nothing over the poppy. And this is what I said. This is a divisive thing. The rainbow poppy is meant to make people go into their little camps and push and radicalize and throw the LGBTQ in the middle of a cultural fight to make things more radical and make the left look like a safe haven for the gays because people want to persecute them. So we'll need more information on this because I think everyone's going to just sort of be bogged down on technicalities here of what was and wasn't said and then go into their little echo chambers, and that's going to be that. But it looks like we actually have some sort of murky ground here where there are teachers and students pushing it and counselors, parts of the administration are pushing it, but not officially pushing it. And then this was sort of a statement against it that they are officially condemning. So it's going to get a bit murkier. We're going to need more information on that. All right. Other news. So, okay, of course, the whistleblower is the biggest omission of the day because, CBS has fired a woman that they didn't have proof that she was the whistleblower at ABC. I think she's recently come out and said she was because she was fired. But they didn't even have proof she was a whistleblower. They just knew she had access to the videos. And CBS fired her for exposing ABC covering up a pedophile ring. Instead of CBS saying, oh, wow, we have information that our competitor is covering up a pedophile ring, we're going to help them cover up a pedophile ring, which makes you think, what do they have on CBS? Or who in CBS is involved in this Epstein nonsense too? So it is I mean, the CBC was going on about, the Russia, the new Trump book, and the blah, 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 and whistleblowers. So defending whistleblowers, unless they blow the whistle on things that we want to keep secret, is where the media stands on whistleblowers, just so we know. All right, now, the good. I was actually surprised today that in the story they did leading off, Trudeau met with the Premier of Manitoba, and they did call the Premier of Manitoba the adult in the room, talked about how Trudeau is divisive on climate change, how he is dividing the country. They did put the blame where it belongs in the division in Canada, and that was on Trudeau. I was shocked that they did, but good on them for doing that, for portraying Justin Trudeau accurately as a divisive individual. Well done on that. So that's that. And then I just want to give a quick notice. Today is Indigenous Veterans Remembrance Day, and that's what they focused on. So it's easy to get a good rating from me when you don't really do the news because you're not misrepresenting the news. But I actually do like the concept of Indigenous Veterans Day. I'm going to take a minute on it here. I've spoken a lot about sort of Indigenous history and how it needs to be important. But Indigenous Veterans Day is actually really important to the unity factor in the country. And let's not let the radical left destroy this day. I'm actually very much in favor of it because this is real Canadian history. They focused on the First World War, Second World War, and Korean War, where Indigenous people did fight with us. And great. I'm not saying no. I mean, the most decorated Canadian soldier in World War I believe an Indigenous sniper was one of our best soldiers. But even before that, I think we should go back even further to 1812. I mean, the story of Canada is sort of Tecumseh and pan-Indian nationalism taking his native warriors to the defense of what was then the Americans invading Canada. And the War of 1812 is really where Canadian nationalism does come from. Laura Secord, the famous walk she did to inform of the American invasion, our version of Paul Revere's British is coming. Who did she walk out and inform? She told the Mohawk tribe. So she went to Mohawk. So this is actually a very important part of Canadian history. The left has tried to portray Indigenous history as Samuel De Champlain got off the boat in 1608 and just like ripped hearts out of Indigenous kids. White power and like Hitler's Mein Kampf. Right? Even though the book wasn't written yet, but what does the left know about history and reality? And the real story is actually, fallen brotherhood that was built up through war and sacrifice together. So I actually think that is a really important part of Canadian history that we are forgetting or never really mentioned or erasing. So I do really want an Indigenous Veterans Day. I think November 8th is a good thing to do it on. I do not want to see a black, a white, a gay, a straight, a Muslim, or Jewish Veterans Day. Okay, my grandfather is a Jewish Canadian veteran. I would not want to see him have his own special day. I'd rather he go in with everyone else. But for Indigenous Veterans Day, for a couple reasons. One, it's important to real Canadian history. And two, I don't want to dilute it with other nonsense stuff. So all in all, it was about, a 3 or 4 out of 10 on the Rosemary Barden scale, but I'm going to deduct a point for calling out Trudeau as the divisive figure in the country, and then I'm actually taking 2 points off because there was one great moment where Suhana Marchand, while talking about these new products, holistic products that are out there that they are banning, I got her here say they're banning them, and they're a detox product for the vagina. And watching her say that was just so funny. So I'm taking 2 extra points off, which means it's the first ever 1 out of 10 on the Rosemary Barden scale of bias. By technicality and silliness, but still, they did it. I'll see everyone tomorrow for the worst of the CBC.